So now we want to actually style our components that we created in earlier videos or earlier tutorials. So we have already created the services component, and we have created already a text teaser component. So we made up our mind already about the how it's going to be styled, and therefore we also have to change a little bit on the HTML structure of the components. So that's what we're going to do first. No, first thing first. So let's just have a look on how our components currently look like. So the text teaser is looking like that at the moment. So we can see the fields that are in there. There's a headline field and a subheadline field, and we have then a content field. But obviously, it's not looking like it should look at the end. And if we take a look at the services component, we have all the fields that we need, but still it doesn't look as it should look. So therefore, let's change the markup a little bit, or the rendering variance a little bit. So going into the presentation folder to the rendering variants that represent the HTML structure of our components. So first, let's start with the services component. And as you can see, we've just have it very easily created so that the fields are rendered to the experience editor or later also to the website. So no divs, no structure in here. And we have the reference renderer that is just adding a new column and then displaying the other fields of the services component. So each tile with the icon and then the headline and so on. So how it actually should look like is we need to start here with some kind of div element, which we call section title. And this is a div that also has the same class title. So in there, we will place the service headline and also the service description. So just drag and drop it in here. And also the service description, yes. Keep the order. And the service headline is going to be a headline element and rendered with an h2 tag, and then using no particular class. And the description, yes, I want to save. And the description is going to be a p tag. Yeah, here we go. And it also doesn't have a particular styling class. So let's save that for now. So that's going to be the headline area of our services component, and underneath we will have the different tiles teasering our services. So within, underneath the section title, we will have another section renderer that represents a div, which will be a class or using the class row. And of course, we sort it to the end, sort last. And in there, we are performing now our reference. So we have used the reference renderer, and I'm just pulling it into the row section. So what next? In the row section, we have already a column, and this column is going to be a div element and also utilizing a few classes. I'm taking out the rept for the moment, so this is would take care about linking directly the whole tile to a target, but I'm leaving that out for now. So otherwise, around my whole tile, so along with the div, I will have a wrapping round a tag to link the whole tile, basically. So within the column, I will have another div, which I call icon box. And this one will be also a div using the same class. So now I'm pulling all the fields into the icon box. So also the description and the teaser image. And well, the image should be displayed first, so sorting it first, and then the order is already fine. Now checking if I need any CSS classes, that should be fine for now. So I have now the markup of the services component. I hope I haven't forgotten anything, but we will see that quite immediately.
I just want to mention, as a front-end developer, when I'm approaching the theming of any component like this, it is kind of up to you as a developer how you decide what the HTML should be. Right now, we're forging the HTML to come out however we see fit for this component. You may have done that by starting to add CSS styles for the existing default HTML of the component's rendering. And then you hit a wall where you discovered you needed additional changes to the HTML, at which point you can come in here into this presentation rendering variants area of the Sitecore content tree and make any of those HTML changes that you see fit. Or in some cases, you have a good idea exactly how you want the HTML to come out right when you're first defining your rendering variants HTML. So you can just forge the HTML the way we're showing here right in that moment. And then that means by the time you get to actually writing CSS for the component, the HTML is already the way you want. In some cases, there's like a Sitecore developer or a more SXA expert developer on a project that you would talk to and agree what these HTML changes should be. And in some cases, they're the ones mostly managing these rendering variants in the Sitecore content tree. So they may go and make the changes that you requested if you're just touching the front end, if you're mainly a front end developer. Or in other cases, the front end developer on a project is asked to span both worlds to directly go into the content tree and make these HTML changes as they see fit.
Yes, and I think having that approach that the front-end developer directly goes into the content tree and creates this kind of HTML structure, I think here is where also Scriven supports it very well, because you can create it then within your preferred tool set, like in Visual Studio Code, and synchronize that into Sitecore without even touching or entering Sitecore as such. So that might be beneficial to you, but we haven't talked about Scriven so far, or not really in detail, and we haven't created a component using Scriven so far.
That's for a future tutorial.
Yes, definitely. So then, yeah, we have that here. So now it's for us about styling. What we could do is just see how our component has changed so far. So already we can see that the style has, or the structure of the component has been adjusted, and that is because we used some of the standard bootstrap classes in order to structure things, and also our headline got worked out a little bit more, and yeah, everything has been restructured. So we see already effect, but we are not there where we want to be, so there we definitely need to add styles. So let's go into the theme that we've created earlier, and here it is. So here's our SXA tutorial theme. And what I'm going to do is definitely I need to add a few files to my SAS folder. But before I do that, I will simply open my terminal to already run the SXA watch command, so that whatever I change now will be directly synchronized with my Sitecore instance, and I can instantly see what effects it's going to take, and by of course refreshing the page. So let me open the terminal and let me run the SXA watch command. So there are several commands that you can run. There's dedicated watch commands for each of the folders that you have in your theme, or you simply run the SXA watch all command. And I recommend to run the debug option, because if you compare 9.3 or the CLI 9.3 with the CLI 10, then in 9.3 you run the gulp command, and that was quite talkative, so you know always what's happening. Well, the SXA watch command doesn't give you that much information anymore, and therefore you have this, you might like that, but if you want this information back, then you can add the -d parameter so that you still get the information about what is going going on here and what is synchronized and what not. So I'm running this command, and I'm expecting that it will ask me to log into my Sitecore instance.
And this is all building on the fact that we previously had created this theme with the command line tool, and we had already synchronized it for a first time into our Sitecore admin into the media library.
Yeah. So my user is admin. I could have also just submitted by pressing return, and then we have a password. And so we see now that all my folders are being watched. So the HTML could be even also synchronized if we have exported everything using Creative Exchange. But then the CSS folder, the JavaScript folder, the ECMAScript folder, whatnot, everything is currently being watched, and then an action is taken to synchronize once I start changing something. So what I'm going to do now on my SAS folder is I'm going to create a new SAS file, and therefore I'm just creating that. So on the one hand, I have some common overrides that I want to do without touching now the original SAS files. Of course, if you do that for a productive implementation, I would say, well, on one hand, clean it up to what you really need, and you can definitely perform all the changes that you need in the existing files. They are owned by you, so you're free to do whatever you need to do here. These are just, I would say, example stylings that you can reuse.
Yeah, the bottom line is as the front end developer working on one of these themes, as long as you've created your own new theme, because you don't want to directly edit any of the out of the box themes. So as long as you're working on your own new theme, you get to create whatever new SAS files you see fit. You can name them whatever you want. You can structure the SAS however you see fit. Some people take the strategy of naming everything to align with the naming conventions of the out-of-the-box components. So in other words, if you make a new custom component of your own, you might name the component hyphen SAS file the same way all the other component SAS files are named. Other people like to keep every bit of SAS that they write that goes above and beyond to override the out-of-the-box stuff. They like to keep that separate in its own files. You could choose either of those two styles that you want.
Yes, so I chose to keep it separate, just also for the purposes to keep all the custom files together and not having them sorted in the list of out-of-the-box stuff. But yeah, so and just to be honest, this is not a front-end tutorial, so we've pre-created some styles already. Let me just add those. And once you see that I've just saved my file, so it's automatically synchronized. And I see that the uploading has been prevented because the disable source uploading was true. So this is what we set when we configured our theme. So we were asked in the creation process of the theme if we want to upload the source files, which we said we don't want to do that. So it's telling us now that it's not going to upload the source files because we have set it up like that. So we get all the information about that just in case we are wondering why those files are not uploaded. But what has been done is there has been done the CSS minification, and the upload of the pre-optimized min.css was also successful. So yeah, that has been done already. So let me also change the other files that I need. So I also have some common changes that I need for all components. So therefore I create a file called SXA tutorial common components .sss, and yeah, as there was again a save action, it's also synchronizing even though there's no real changes in here, and I'm adding a few more styles. So saving that as well, and doing now the last operation, which is then the dedicated styles for my services component. So therefore I'm creating again a file called SXA tutorial services component.scss and putting in the styles that I need for that one. So I have now created all the styles, they are synchronized to my theme in Sitecore. So I should see an effect actually on my services component in the Experience Editor. So let me just refresh, and I'm doing it now with a hard refresh, as there's currently no, as there's currently, I would say, an issue with browser caching. So that's why a normal refresh doesn't happen. So yeah, but as you can see, my headline is now aligned middle. I have this green little line here. Also my other things are aligned. So if I go to preview, I might even see, well, no, I don't see more. So that was not helpful. Oh, because there was no content. But anyway, you can see now.
It just has the example dummy content in there so far.
Yes, yes. But you can see the effect that it takes now on my component. So let's do that also directly for the text teaser. So we remember that was the text teaser. Also going back to the content editor to define the right markup structure here. So the text teaser is currently just having a row, and then I have already some sections here. So let me just also change that a bit. So I will need a section title, insert section title. It's basically following a similar structure like the component that we've just created. So it's more or less a repetition of what I just did. So then in there, I have the label field. So I'm just moving it down. Yes. Yes. Good. And the label field doesn't require any additional CSS, but it's going to be an H2. And now we need the row. So I'm sorting this first, sorting first. And we don't need the label div anymore. And then we have the headline column. That looks already fine. For the headline field, we're also choosing another H2. And for the sub-headline field, we're choosing to have an H3. And the content column looks already fine. So the content field doesn't require a tag at all. That's also fine. So yeah, so the structure of the text teaser is ready to go. So let's see how that affected already our style. So we can see that the headline as such has been already aligned by the basic styles that we have applied already, which are applied to all the components. So we have that, but we see the headline and subheadline is not quite what we want to have. So let's perform also those changes, and therefore we go back to the to our Visual Studio Code solution and insert another style sheet for that particular component, which I call also SXA tutorial text teaser component. Go and copy over the styles, save it, and check our changes. Yeah, not much changed, but I think there was an adjustment of the headline a bit. So yeah, this way we can easily style our components and synchronize it with Sitecore, see our changes, adopt the changes if something is not as it is expected to be, and then go further.
Yeah, that's the process I would go through as a themer. And then once I'm done and I'm satisfied with the way the changes look in my local instance of Sitecore that's been conveniently synced back and forth for me from that command line watch, I would stop the watch and commit and push my changes to the repo so everyone else can get the latest theme assets and they could see it in their locals.
Perfect.